Good morning, all. This is Kurt with 5 Hacking Tips. First of all, thank you for subscribing. Subscribers have gone up quite a bit since the last video. I apologize for not putting out more videos, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. I've been busy with some client work and I've had to put off a little bit of content creation over the last couple of weeks. But I do have something good today. And it's something that came up during an exercise a couple weeks ago. And it's pretty much, what do I do after, on a red teaming exercise, what do I do after I get shell? Like if I get a reverse shell or, whatever, after I've set up Meterpreter or Netcat on my remote attacking machine and somebody actually does click the executable or whatever that you sent to them and you get a reverse shell back. That's kind of the frozen point for a lot of beginners, where they actually get the shell and then they start looking at what the Meterpreter commands are going to be in order to get persistence and other things. So basically what I'm going to show today is the next step. And we're going to cover some Meterpreter commands and some Meterpreter setup. In the beginning, what I'll present is things that are already out there on the offensive security website and are covered somewhat inside of the Metasploit training that you see online, but other parts of it are not. They're actually kind of the dirty secrets that hackers and red teamers already kind of know. And if you have people with experience know what I'm saying is, you work really hard on a red team to actually get a reverse shell. And the last thing that you want is to not get persistence, number one. And then number two is while not getting persistence, somebody actually closes their browser or closes the program that you've DLL hooked, Excel, for example. So I'm gonna dive right in here. The malware that I'm going to use here is actually similar to the malware that I created for the Bash Bunny video that I did a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago. But this is a little different. It's called the type of attack is called Perun's fart. And excuse the language, but it's actually fart actually means something different in Polish. I'm not sure what it means, but they go through that in the Sector 7 training. By the way, I don't receive any money from Sector 7. I just believe in the training. It's good training. It's and like I've said before, it's actually worth taking the training and paying the $199 or $209 or $299, whatever it's worth. It's very well worth the money just to sign up for the training and pay the dues and get the source code and to understand the source code. But I also recommend taking the training because the exercises in there are actually quite interesting. They're challenging, and they train you to apply the attacks that you develop or the malware that you develop in that training. Let me jump right in here. So the first commands we're going to cover are all quite basic. You go into Metasploit and you use multi-handler, and then you set a payload, and then you set the L host and the L port. And then the next two commands here, set exit on session false, is basically the default setup of Meterpreter is that when you get a session, it quits listening and it doesn't take on any more reverse shells. So it's single channel per se. So by setting exit on session false, you're basically telling Meterpreter, okay, don't exit on session, but continue to listen and take on more sessions. And then the next command, run -JZ, those are actually just the flags to tell it to run as a job and run continuously. So I'm going to dive right in here and show you what I'm talking about. So let's go right in, and here I'll boot up Metasploit. So I'm going to type in MSF else down there. So MSF console. and that starts up. It's warning me that it's not the latest version because I haven't. Yeah, it says it's 2 weeks old. I think we can live with that. Goes to show how long since I've actually done a video on that. So here we've booted up Metasploit. So I'm going to say use multi-handler. And there we have multi-handler, and then set the payload. If you, by the way, just in addition, if you're not sure what payload, there's always the command to list payloads that are available, and it just shows a whole load of payloads, or show payloads. Sorry, maybe it's not list, but it'll show a whole bunch of payloads that are available within Metasploit, and there's a lot. So there's various tactics that you can use when you use these payloads. By the way, they reflect what you put in as a payload for MSF Venom, of course. So there's various ways of attacking and using different payloads that would DLL hook or inject into an executable. So I'm gonna set the payload to an x64. So it's Windows x64, and then Meterpreter, and then reverse TCP. So it says not valid. So one more time, set payload. Wow, having a really good time here today. So Windows x64 Meterpreter, reverse TCP. That worked. Okay. I had a typo in the previous one. I don't see it. Oh, S64 instead of X64. So there it is. So we've set the payload. So I'm going to set the L host, and this is going to be my attacker IP. So I'm going to have to mask this out, but here's my, I set the L host, and then I'm going to set the L port. And most of the time I use 8080. I use 80 a lot because when you're trying to go out of a corporate network, quite often the firewall leaves open most of those HTTP or proxy type ports, like 8888, 8880, 8080, 443, and variants of that, like 4343 is quite often open, and that kind of. So I'm going to set the port here to 8080 because that's actually what I've set up with the malware executable that I've created. And then I'm going to set exit on session. That's going to be false. A lot of times I do it by the textbook, so I use all caps and that kind of thing. Don't worry about using all caps because, as we know, Metasploit actually works with caps, or it tends to be case non-sensitive putting in. So here I'm going to run -JZ, and what this basically does is it starts listening on Metasploit, and then when you get, and it starts it as a job, so it's in a sense running in the background. But when you get sessions also, they also run in the background, and you can look up sessions by sessions -L, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So I'm gonna dive over here, and I'm gonna run the malware that I've created. I can find my. So here we go. So I'm going to double click this. So let me explain this malware a little bit. It's called Perun's Fart, and what it basically does is quite often it bypasses Windows Defender, and it bypasses other. In this case, it bypasses Bitdefender, and what it does is it looks for an executable, and then it attaches a DLL to that executable, and it runs with that executable. So when that executable stops, the DLL goes away and your session stops. So immediately you want to look for persistence with this. And yeah, here. So I go back here and basically show. Actually, I just want to show that. So we want to run this command as soon as we get a session to try and get persistence, or see if at least we can get persistence. No promises here. Bitdefender might pick it up when we run that persistence script. So you've actually got to know your target. Number one, the first rule: know your target. The second rule is to understand that when you go from a DLL that's hooked and you're basically running in memory, that once you start writing to disk, that sets off a lot of alarms many times in an environment. So this persistence command could actually be more harm. There are other ways to get persistence, and there are more stealthy ways to get persistence. Once again, take the persistence class in Sector 7 to find out more. I haven't actually taken that class. And another additional note, Sector 7 pays me no money. It's just that good. And I recommend anybody that wants to learn red teaming, go the next step beyond just pen testing, to take those courses and understand it. It's very Windows centric, but hey, most of the systems that you're going to be red teaming against out there are going to be Windows systems. So I'm going to go ahead and run the malware, and we're going to see. So let me explain the malware a little more in depth. So I've created the malware so that it actually goes through. It goes through the process list and it looks for browsers. So the first thing, and it looks for browsers by popularity. So the first thing it looks for is MS Edge. I skipped Internet Explorer. A lot of people are quitting it right now, so I didn't include that. But it looks for MS Edge. And if there's an MS Edge process, it'll attach a DLL to that process. If there's a Chrome, so if there isn't an MS Edge instance running, it'll look for Chrome and it'll attach itself to the Chrome executable. And then if Chrome isn't running, it'll look for Firefox and it'll attach itself to that. With Firefox, on Windows Defender, it works just fine if the target is just running Windows Defender. But with the other ones, with Chrome and MS Edge, it runs just with all of them, it runs just fine with Windows Defender. However, with Windows Defender sometimes, and it's kind of hit and miss, when you attach to Firefox, it'll crash Firefox, and sometimes it doesn't. It actually works. And on the other hand, with other antivirus, so the other one that I run in the environment, it bypasses McAfee altogether, by the way. With Bitdefender, however, when it attaches to Firefox, and this is explicit to Firefox, when it attaches to Firefox, Bitdefender picks it up and stops Firefox, and it warns you that Firefox itself is a malware. It doesn't do anything to prevent you from restarting Firefox or anything, because an end user would see that and it'd be like, oh, and most end users would they'd either freak out and contact the help desk like they should, or they would just click Firefox again and run it. Excuse me, getting dry throat. So what I've done here, just to stay safe, and because I have Bitdefender running on the system, what I've done is I've started up MS Edge, and we're going to see how it works. Knock on wood that when I do actually get persistence or request persistence through Meterpreter, it doesn't kick off Bitdefender. But I'm going to double click here. I'm not showing this. I'm just going to do it. And we're seeing here now that it's sending a stage. Meterpreter's reacting, and it started a Meterpreter session. So when we get a Meterpreter session, we want to run this exploit Windows local persistence command. So going back here, we can see that, okay, so I've got a Meterpreter sessions, minus L, that lists the sessions that I have. If I set sessions 1, so I flip over into that session, and now, I want to make sure that I keep this. This is like the first command or the first thing you need to be thinking about. Getting a single channel into a target is not good enough, because you're inevitably you're on a timeline. Either they're gonna shut down the process, or they're gonna reboot their computer, and you're just gonna have to start all over again from whether it's phishing or a physical attack or that kind of thing. So here we are. We have a session. So I'm going to say run, and then I'm going to say exploit, Windows, local, and then persistence. Then it ran it, and nothing came up on the other side. So if I show this, we don't get a pop-up from Bitdefender or anything. So woohoo, we have persistence, basically. So if I wanted to drop out into this Meterpreter session, and so the first thing we have here is loot. So you're in, now you want to get stuff. So one of the ways of downloading stuff is say download, and then -R for recursive, and then excuse me, man. So I'm going to say users, and then this is my profile, and then backslash, and then documents. So I want all the documents. I want everything that's in documents, and I'm going to download that. So right there, I run that parse image quote. Oh, yeah. Okay, so maybe I don't need quotes. So even I learn something every now and then here. But let's try it again with quotes all the way around to make sure that it goes all the way through. So there. So it failed. So it's access denied. But that's the way to do it. So another way, would be to try and I don't know. Another thing here is maybe I didn't interesting that I'm running out of my music in my documents here, but in my home directory. Excuse me. But anyway, so that's how you do it. Maybe it could be that I'm running MSF console as non-root. I should have maybe started up as sudo in order to copy it all down. But if I wanted to get a particular document that's out of my docs, and that's probably the more stealthy way of doing it. So you win some, you lose some. But here I've got for example, a data.json file that's in my docs. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm not going to run, recursive. I don't want to download the whole directory. And I'm going to say, so when I upload these notes, I'll fix the quotes that are shown in on the screen. So data.json. Let's see if that works. And it didn't work. So it says it can't find the file specified. Data.json. Maybe it's a quotes thing. So let's try that without the quotes and see if it all works. Maybe Meterpreter doesn't need the quotes, and that doesn't work either. But I know that JSON bear with me here. Interesting, because the file is there. Let me double check something else here on this side. Go in. Yeah. Okay. So the the path is correct. Oh no, it's not, because there is nothing in my documents. I was looking somewhere else. So let's go somewhere else and say, okay, let's say dump stack.log off of the C directory. Let's just say I want to get that. So I'm going to say, instead of going all the way here, just get something off of the root directory. So there we go. Like maybe my system crashed or something, and then it did a memory dump. So I want to download that, and wow, lo and behold, it doesn't allow me to. So that might be a sudo thing when I run MSF console, because it's not pulling it back. That's fine. But anyways, that's how you download things. I'll figure that out later. That's homework for you. You figure it out as well. So I'm going to go on to the next command, and that's basically to look at getting system. So one way to do that, and I've had this work a couple times. It doesn't always work, and the reason it doesn't always work is because people don't necessarily have that kind of access. But I'm going to run this, and it didn't work because I actually don't give myself that kind of access. And it could be a difference between Windows 10 and Windows 11, because I've had a lot of these commands actually work with a person that's running in Windows 11. But quite often people run as admin within Windows without really knowing that they have administrative rights, or that they're always running with administrative rights. But if you want to get system, that's the way to do it, through Meterpreter. A lot of the things aren't necessarily working here, but I wanted to actually introduce this in real time. We do have an opportunity to get shell, though. You can always get shell in Meterpreter. So I'm going to hit, So I'm hitting the next command and show it here. So we tried get system. I didn't necessarily, this isn't always going to work, by the way. Download should work. I think that's good homework for us, and actually for me to come back and figure out why that's not working, because it usually does. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop into a Windows shell straight out of Meterpreter. So here we go. So I type in the shell command, and basically it gives me, as you can see here, it gives me a full path and a Windows prompt, basically. And notice that it says Edge, Program Files x86 Microsoft Edge application, and then it appears to show the version right there. That's the whole path to where the executable for MS Edge is running. So I'm attached to an MS Edge executable right now and running. So now that we're in there, so I'm just going to exit out of here. So that's a way to get shell. So to show that that's my laptop name, my computer name, and my first and last name, which is my username on this computer. So I'm going to exit out of here, and we're back in the interpreter or Meterpreter session. So if I show this actually session, so I'm already in the session. Ignore that. So the next thing is what we want to see is, so we've tried to download files, didn't get it. We tried to get system, we didn't get it. We apparently got persistence without a problem. So we're confident that if the user reboots his laptop, that most likely we're going to, or personal computer, we're most likely going to get a reverse shell back if we keep on listening. But the next best thing for loot is actually to get the hashes. So let's try the command get hashes and see what that gives us. Interesting. So lesson learned, always go back to the help command and go back in. So it shows what the get system is. And then do we get you get UID? These are all just getting information from the Meterpreter, from the reverse connection. So we go into here, and actually get hashes isn't listed. So it might have been an update with Meterpreter. We got shell field token. You can actually run execute and then execute a command across the system as well. So this is quite interesting. I'm not seeing a get hashes in here. So maybe that was something that is oh no, right here. So we've got hash dump. So the command changed. I'll change that in the notes as well. So hash dump. So we do that, and it doesn't give me that. So the thing here, it says parameter isn't correct. So I mean, that's probably another homework thing, or it could be the fact that I don't run my Windows as an administrator. I run with limited privileges, and every time I need administrator access, Windows prompts me for it. And there's ways around that, and there's ways with PowerShell of minimizing and hitting yes when that pops up and that kind of thing. There's all kinds of PowerShell things you can do to bypass that with other types of malware. But in this scenario, we've got persistence, and we can still poke around on the system. If you do get shell, you can still pull things off of the system from within the system. So that's, I mean, we've come a long way. We've got persistence, and we get shell anytime we want. Too bad a lot of the things aren't actually working here, but it's good information, and it'll probably work if you do the right thing. But the last thing I wanted to show is, okay, so we have Meterpreter listening as a job in the background, and then we have these sessions coming in. And if you in a typical red team, you'll have, you'll do maybe like a spear phishing exercise and really target one person, because that's the person, maybe like a CTO or the person right below the CIO or the CTO that actually, or maybe two steps below that actually has a lot of access, and you spear phish that person. But what happens when you spear phish? You set off a lot of flags many times, so people will either catch it or they won't catch it, and they'll actually click on it. But you actually want to increase your chances. So even with a very directed spear phishing thing, it's actually a good idea to hit like 3 to 5 people in the organization so that you get multiple sessions. But if you want to see what the sessions are that are running out there, you can basically actually, I'm a little rusty today, so it's actually not showing that. So I'm in session 1 here. So if I say, basically, I exit out of this, and it closed the session. So I'm gonna go ahead and reopen my and actually with persistence, it might come back like right away, but oftentimes it actually takes a lot of time. So to expedite things, I'm just going to go ahead and run my and this time I forgot to start up MS Edge. So this time it detected my Firefox that was running, which is quite interesting because I need that for this presentation. So I'd have to pause the video. No. Recovery. Gotta love it. So I'm going to start up MS Edge again, because when when we close the session, the person's MS Edge will stop, and I mean that's just the way it works. We can fix that actually, and that's why you fine tune your malware before you actually deploy it. But this is just for demonstration purposes. So we can see right here that we have another session that has actually, it didn't start yet. It crashed mine. Started again. So here we can see that another session is starting up, session 2 there. It's sending the stage. And from here, okay, we can see that we have a Meterpreter session. But if I go back to these commands, and this is like where a lot of the control takes over when you have from a campaign or whatever you've done, when you have, first of all, you're running Meterpreter as a job in the background. So you want to be able to control that, stop it, look at how many background jobs you have. And the way to do that is basically to look at jobs. So like look at jobs minus L. Let me go back here. Typing screen. So jobs minus L. And that lists the jobs that are running out there. And job ID 0 is what it says here. It's basically running multi-handler in the background. And it shows the IP that, this is the L host and the L port. And then it shows what the payload is running. And then sessions is the same way. You say sessions minus L. And there you go. It shows the sessions. Actually, I think if you say sessions minus B, it throws the current session in the background, and I failed to do that. I actually exited out of it, stopped it. So if you want to kill like all jobs that are out there, all multi-handler jobs that are out there, you hit what it says here. I'm not going to do it because I'm still demonstrating, but you hit jobs minus K, and it just basically kills all jobs. If you want to kill like a single job, you hit minus jobs minus lowercase k, and you put in the job ID. And in this case, if we look, our job ID is 0. So we'd say jobs minus k and 0, and that would kill the specific job. I already showed you jobs minus L. So I'm going to show you how to kill a particular job. So jobs minus k 0 and stopping the following jobs. So if I say jobs minus L, there are no more jobs running. But we can, because I've already put in the parameters and everything, and we're ready to go. I restart it, and jobs minus L, and there it incremented the job number and shows all the details for that job. I hit sessions because I killed the job, so it still lists the session that's there. Interesting. Now that's powerful. So we still got that session. So if I hit sessions, despite the fact that I killed the job running in the background. So if I hit sessions too, lo and behold. Now, that's basically everything in a nutshell. Everything didn't work like a dream, but these commands are out there. Take advantage of them. I will update the notes so that they're a little more accurate than what I presented here. But this is the next step with Meterpreter. The big thing with getting shell is one thing, but being able to get multiple shells and handle multiple shells from a single attack that you've done is actually the next level. That's basically how a red teamer, a professional red teamer, would handle the project. That's all. I appreciate all of the support. Please like, please subscribe. Recently, we've had a good increase in subscribers, and it's a good thing. I really appreciate that. And keep the feedback coming, because with the feedback, it gives me ideas for the next thing that I'm going to present, or the next thing that I'm going to cover. This didn't necessarily come from comments or any kind of feedback. It was something that it came up in my mind. It's just like, you know, you're going to teach people or direct people on ways to attack. The attack is one thing, but being able to handle the shell or the response from the attack after that is actually a skill that is as important as learning the malware or how to create the malware and deliver the malware itself. Thank you. Apologies for all the coughs during the presentation. Try not to drink so much coffee before I present next time. And have a good day. I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to the next video providing you with some good. Take care.